time passes. So yeah, thank you. Perfect. So the first point of update is Fusaka updates. We have devnet 3 that's continuing to run from about 10 days now. Last week we did two non-finality experiments. In the first one, we took out just the full nodes, and in the other one, we took out a subset of the supernodes. In both of these scenarios, we had non-finality in the first case for about an hour and the second case for about half a day. And the network was able to regain finality after a non-crazy amount of time. I think the first scenario we had finality about an epoch after, which is actually great to see the speed. And in the supernode scenario, we regain finality about 20 to 30 minutes after, which is still quite a fast regaining. We still have to dig a bit more into the results, but nothing's really stood out. Bandwidth limits seem to be fine, so the network's largely okay. The next exercise we're planning on doing is limit a subset of nodes to just have about 1 Mbps or 2 Mbps, especially especially supernodes. So they're still participating on the network, but they're very unreliable supernodes, and we want to see what that does to the network. Besides this, I don't see Bharat on the call, but we have been. Oh yeah, Bharat, do you want to talk about GetBlob v2 and MEV workflow on devnet 3?
Yeah, I don't get blob V2. That I'm not sure.
As in
Uh,
the private mempool stuff.
oh yeah. So actually, with respect to the private mempool, I don't have a lot of updates. There were some. I faced some issue. I found an issue during like fork transition in the get payload API. Like it's a small issue. Like I was mainly like working on that. So that is something I was doing, and outside that, I haven't been monitoring the DevNet 3 since last Friday or something. But outside of the private mempool stuff, I do believe like we have a way to directly send transactions to the builder. Like I think PK has been pretty great in like modifying spam mode to directly send transactions to the builder. I think we should probably like stick to that, and like I think that should probably work for private mempool testing for like 2 to 3 days or 1 or 2 days. We'll probably have to monitor the spammer jobs, but I believe like that's a path we can take right now. So that's the way I'm seeing it. Like,
Okay, that sounds good. Then let me just get this set up working again for just spamming on the private member, and then we can have a look at the peer-to-peer data and make sure that GetBlob v2 is properly disabled and there's no other bugs. And we can release a report or some data on how that goes.
yeah, I think like once I fix the fork transition issue, I was planning on spending more time on the private mempool stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so after that, there's also some more information. We've had a couple of community tools starting to join in devnet 3 as well, which is a great sign. So we have Vouch, who's joined on as a validator on the network, and they seem to be producing blocks as expected and testing as expected. The other bits of testing on devnet 3 is we have a fork of Prism, and our Prism fork essentially adds hooks. And this hook allows us to change what it does at runtime. And one of the things we're doing is mutating data columns. And there's a probability on what data columns we're mutating. Either we're doing byte flips or we're changing the column indexes and then repropagating them on the network. And since it's a proper Prism fork, every other node would see it as a Prism node on the network that's just malfunctioning. This has been live on the network for like I want to say 2 hours-ish now, and hasn't seemed to cause any chaos. We also validated everything locally, and everyone's rejecting the malicious payloads as expected. The good thing is with the hooks, we can extend this to more malicious scenarios. So if anyone has ideas, then please engage. It's a thread on the interrupt chat, and I've posted the link there. Anything we want to talk about with regards to devnet 3 right now? Okay. Moving on, we've set up devnet 4 as well. This is in coordination with Sunnyside Labs as well as Base, and it's a really, really large network. We have about 1,500-ish nodes, touching almost 1,600 now, and more are coming online. You can find the distribution as well as a plan as to what all we intend on testing in the network in the message I posted in chat. In case anyone has any deviation from the testing plan, then please reach out and we can accommodate that over the next couple of days. But in general, the network's doing fine. We have the next BPO scheduled for the next few hours, and we're going to be going all the way up to 48 blobs. And the idea of doing a very high blob load on this large network is we can see how peer-to-peer would actually function. This is still mostly the perfect scenario. For example, Sam's done like Max is 72. Sam's done like an alpha analysis of the data we saw today, and we already see attestations reaching everyone in the 500-ish milliseconds range, which is unrealistic because mainnet, the P99 value is roughly 2 seconds. But I don't really see a way of inducing that in a devnet. Everything is just as a fact peered better than mainnet ever will be, but it should give us at least a hint of how the network will perform at higher blob loads. And in case someone wants a graph, then the Sunnyside Lab team has made a graph for us, so please have a look there. Yeah, the only client that's been having issues on the network is Nimbus, and Dustin's been looking into it. I don't see him on the call, but one of the things that he mentioned is that they're getting information a bit later and deeming it as invalid and causing some issues. So he's looking into why this is triggering specifically on DevNet 4 and not on other networks. Yeah. Okay. That's, I think, it on the DevNet front. Does anyone have questions on DevNet 3 or DevNet 4? Okay. The next point was that we spoke about Holsky releases on ACD last week, and one of the concerns that all the clients might not have releases in time for the earlier proposed timeline for Holsky. And there was a question on if we would like to do releases from forks or to specify a branch or have an RC release or whatever for Holsky, such that we can still hit the September timeline. We checked with the community chat we have with Holsky validators in case this is something that they can support. And the only request that some of them had is that we give them either a branch that they can build a binary out of or a Docker container that contains the binary such that they can extract it to use in their own tooling. And they're happy to accommodate that. So at least from a community perspective, we shouldn't have any blockers for having ad hoc releases for Holsky. But I wanted to ask if any client teams have put more thought into it. Is there any update on how we want to do Holsky and if we have to communicate anything beforehand? Okay, I guess we bring that up as a topic on ACD and async. Yeah, I think Prism has a message. So James has a message from Preston. Releasing Holsky off of develop isn't difficult, but it breaks their normal flow for releases. Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, I'd assume that we're talking more about this on ACD than if no one has strong points to bring up today. In general, for Fusaka, the next step for us is finishing up DevNet 4 testing. DevNet 3 will continue running, and we're gonna just get more malicious with it. And yeah, I think that we have a shadow fork planned, but we probably wait for some final releases before we do the shadow fork. Does that sound okay as a testing plan for Fusaka? Is there any concern, anything that we should accommodate this week on the large network? Because we will be taking it down on Friday, so please reach out sooner so we can accommodate any testing. And it's quite time consuming to spin up these networks, so we want to get the most out of it. devnet 4 doesn't have any non-finality planned on it. We can have a short non-finality period, but I don't know. Do you have a particular reason you want to try non-finality on devnet 4, Pawan?
Uh, I didn't have like any particular plan in mind, but like if we had like a longer non-finality period, then uh, like some attacks could become a little more uh, I don't know, like potent in some ways. So if we were planning to have a longer finality, then we could potentially look into those as well.
Okay, would you be fine with us spinning up a smaller network to do this instead of devnet 4?
Yeah, I think that would be fine as well.
Okay, cool. Then we can organize that once we've sunsetted devnet 4. Okay, anything else for Fusaka? I have this one EIP from Dano that still needs merging. If anyone has the time, then please review it and leave your approval. If not, I guess we merge it this week. Okay, moving on to the next topic, we have loadnet and puffnet, so more about gas limit scaling. The sync tests are going on, and there was a fix missing in the Nethermind image that led to a failed sync test, and the fix was already known, so we just have to re-trigger the sync test for Nethermind. And Raphael has ordered a few more machines so that we don't have to always rely on the same machine for sync tests. In general, we have this page up, so you'll be able to track historic sync times, disk usage, etc. per client. And this is for Fusaka, of course, but we would have the exact same page for puffnet, and ETA should be, I guess, mid this week or late this week. I think that's all the updates for gas limit this week. I don't see Camille on the chat, and Carlos is on vacation this week, so I don't think we'd get any other updates. The next topic on yeah, Mario, do you want to go?
Yeah, just small update. We are capable, I think, this week of re making another benchmark release. But I think, Camille, I can share it the release once it's done, also with the CK team, so you can run the test with that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Actually, maybe do you want to mention the update with East, the gas benchmarking tool now working together? I don't think we've
Hmm.
brought that up on ACDT yet.
I think yeah, basically the idea is that we're making benchmark releases, and they contain this new fixture format for the tests that is called Nginx, which basically is normally for our tests previously we had a genesis per test, and it was different per each of the tests. So now with this new mode, we have a consolidated genesis, which allows the Nethermind team to basically just pull one genesis file and run every single benchmarking test that we have. This is very good for a lot of reasons, not only for benchmarking, but for benchmarking, it allows you for just send a new payload and just benchmark that, and then you report that. We're gonna extend this mode to other not only benchmarking but also consensus tests, so we can run the thousands and thousands of tests we have much more faster. in the engine API mode. But yeah, in general, for benchmarking it is that the new consolidated format. We're gonna make another release this week, and yeah, we'll keep you updated basically.
Thank you. The next point was relating to Glamsterdam. So last week at ACDC, one of the headliners that, at least as of now, has been chosen is EPBS. So the question is, how do we want to organize Glamsterdam related testing? I am not sure if we have block level access list devnets or support on devnets yet. I see Tony on the call. Do we have any images or any specs or anything we want to have people start implementing?
Yeah, we do have specs. So the execution specs exists, and Jared has already started an implementation in Geth, but we don't have a devnet yet.
Got it. Is there a Genesis fork field that we need to enable for enabling block level access lists, or does it activate on Glamsterdam time?
I think we can activate it on Amsterdam.
Okay, cool. In that case, then let's get in touch and I guess get you a Protosis config so that other clients can also start implementing parallelly and have something to test locally.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good. I wanted to bring it up on ACDE on Thursday anyway, because there's still some open questions. So if someone on the call is listening and wants to talk about SSC versus RLP, and if we should keep the storage locations in the BAL or not. So we should talk about this on Thursday.
Perfect. Thank you. We already have local testing support for EPBS, so we can pin a config on the EPBS chat so that anyone having that local branch can also test EPBS. I think the question I had there also for block level access list is, do we want to spend time rebasing on top of Fusaka now, or do we want to focus on first getting a devnet where everything is working together and then focus on repricing? Do we have, I don't know, any EL or CL teams with opinions on when to spend time rebasing? Okay, I don't see anyone on the PBS side here, so I'm not sure if it's worth discussing that bit here. But Tony mentioned that block level access list is already spec on top of Fusaka, so maybe that's a good approach for it. I'm assuming the repricing is also going to be trivial to spec it on top of Fusaka, so let's choose that as the option. And then we can have individual devnets as long as they're all activated by Glamsterdam or the related timestamps, and we can merge them into the same devnet as soon as possible. Okay, any other Glamsterdam related testing questions? I think we're still in the phase where we're figuring out how the testing stream should be, so please speak up if you have opinions on that. What is the okay, cool. So Justin mentions that he's going to merge in the intervals per slot PR soon. That is good to know. Thank you. It's posted in the chat in case someone wants to leave any last minute feedback. Okay, and I think we need to modify some things on kurtosis in order to support this. So we'll work on that later this week once the PR has been merged. And just surfacing what's a talking points on chat. The repricing we're talking about is gas repricing. Okay. The Sunnyside Lab team, do you guys have an update you want to share today?
No, not much from our side today. We expect to have another report by tomorrow for the ones that were running before the meganet, the devnet 4. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other topics? We have an open floor. I think that was most or all of the agenda. Yeah, Mario?
Yeah, sorry. Just going back to the question of repricing, do we have an EIP for that, or is this like a
I
general?
think there are some EIPs. So there is, I think, 7904. There's also 7778 that might fall into that category. Then there is an EIP in the making around multi-dimensional metering. So I think there are some smaller EIPs floating around.
Yeah, Ansgar?
Yeah, the one I was referring to primarily that's already in an EIP set is indeed 7904. I think 7778 is interesting, but it's not. That's more like a kind of a pretty self-contained topic. So I think there's less value in like early devnet inclusion. Multi-dimensional metering is still more in the exploratory phase. So I would not. I think that would be premature. So for now, out of the EIPs, it's primarily 7904, but also there's a lot of ongoing repricing work that hasn't yet made it to the EIP stage. So it was also a bit forward-looking. So more like as we have a few more of these repricing EIPs, I really think that from the EL side, Amsterdam, at least in my vision for Amsterdam, a lot of the focus will be on repricing. So as we have like 2, 3, 4 of these bigger repricing EIPs, I think basically trying to have them be prioritized for like a shared devnet together with EPBS and BLs would be very valuable, because then you can really test running the kind of the EVM and the EL in general at basically the speed that we think we might be getting to after Amsterdam.
Yeah, is there maybe a plan to have a meta EIP or somewhere we can track it? Because that would help with DevNet spec work if we don't have to always go through a process to add a new EIP in.
You mean meta EIP specifically for the DevNet or for like this kind of this more topical for
I
these?
would have said for the topic of gas repricing for Amsterdam.
Yeah, we can. It doesn't yet exist, but we can make that happen. Absolutely.
Awesome. Because then we can always reference that and it will be easier to update the meta EIP rather than add each EIP individually.
And maybe if I may, one more comment from my side, just maybe to align intuitions here. And again, this is just my opinion. It could be completely wrong, but my feeling is if we really end up with EPBS and bulk level access lists and repricings in Amsterdam, then I think that will probably mean and that will probably make sense to be aware of early on, that really Amsterdam is very severely impacting kind of the throughput levels of Ethereum, at least potentially. Like I think in principle, in reality, things always play out differently, but in principle, kind of with the efficiency gains, we should get there on paper. We could really like see the network go to like, I don't know, 4 times or something, the kind of throughput level from before, or something like that. Maybe even more, maybe less, I don't know, but basically like really like a very significant amount. And of course we wouldn't actually raise the limits at the time of the fork immediately so much, but that means that I think if we do the testing too much anchored at today's throughput levels, I think we're basically like missing out on really stress testing where the network will end up. So, and given that it's so unusual, I don't think that will ever happen again at any fork, maybe except for ZK EVM at some point in the very far future. But other than that, I think it's really like a one-time thing. So I do think for testing going forward, having in mind that Amsterdam will be very unusual with the potential scaling impact, I think would be a good direction to lean into.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's also the approach we're taking with Fusaka. So for example, devnet 4 is already testing 100 million. So even the blob numbers we're getting and all the data assumes that mainnet is at 100 million rather than at 45 million. So I would also approach Amsterdam with the same thought. I think we have to still find what that upper limit number would be, but I'm sure that'll get clearer as time passes on. Yeah, Marius had a point about consensus issues found on Fusaka. Does either Marius or Mario want to talk about it?
I'm not sure which one, but 7223, if that's the case, there was a consensus issue in Geth. Basically, there was an edge case where one of the constraints of 7223 was reached before 7883, if I remember correctly. We have already a task for this. We're gonna put it on the next East release. But yeah, is that the one that you were referring to, Marius, or do you have something else in mind?
Yeah, I think there was one, and there was something with red, if I remember correctly. But I was out of office, so I only like saw some mention of it at some point.
I can say something about that. Calculation of when the modexp base and mode is 0, we just return minimal gas, but with the changes with Osaka, this is not the case, and that gas depends on exponent. So this was the bug. I think Besu and us basically return the minimal gas, while others return that gas that got calculated.
I think we already have a PR merge. I'm gonna check with the team to see if this test that we merged actually hits the issue. Yeah.
I tested it with state test and should be fine.
So basically, the two issues were both with the gas cost calculation in ModX, but they were unrelated. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Do we feel like we have enough coverage of this field then? Or are we spending more time now to see if we have enough coverage?
I feel we merged a bunch of tests last week. I think it wouldn't hurt to double check the coverage in this week. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is already running on Hive, right?
We need to make another devnet release unless I'm mistaken.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that
we will do.
I just want to mention that the EF protocol security team has begun reviewing clients. And like this, the PR I shared is from one of our team members.
Awesome, thank you. There was one point Philip noticed while testing about EthCall as well. Do you want to mention it and get feedback from clients, Philip?
Yep. Yeah, just a small question. We have that TX gas limit in EIP 7825, and we've noted at least one client implemented this limit for ETH calls too, which causes some issues in some downstream toolings. So the question is if the limit should apply to ETH calls too, or if it's solely for normal transactions, what I would have expected. We unfortunately don't know which client has implemented the limit on ETH call yet, so there's no one to blame yet, if it's a bug.
Yeah, I don't think that they should be limited on ETH call.
I actually think it shouldn't apply to ETH call too, because that's highly used by UIs to fetch data from the chain. If we limit that, that will cause some problems there, especially as there was no limit before.
Yeah, and we also haven't limited based on the gas limit for the block either.
I guess we can manually make an ETH call against all the client RPCs and figure out who has it mistakenly configured, right?
Yep, that's relatively easy. We just put the limit in there and it directly rejects.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Alexi, do you want to go?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm. So block limit is still is applied or not? Because I saw some mentions of that in the chat that probably we still adhere to block limit, but not like transaction limit, or we do not impose any limits at all. And if it can be described somewhere, this spec.
I don't I don't think block limit, but it's like 10x block limit is sort of a usual thing, and then some RPCs go higher. So I don't think unbounded is entirely what you want, because otherwise you infinite loop. But yeah, much higher than the block limit. For instance, there's NFTs that do, reconstruction of on-chain images that are much larger than the block limit.
Yeah, also RPC providers want to limit the amount of computation that you can do per call. So having it entirely unlimited isn't good, but also having it limited to either the block size or the contract or the transaction size means that yeah, it's harder to call these view functions on the contracts.
Do we have to update the EIP for wording, or are we happy as is and just patch the bug? Okay, I guess we leave as is for now and then first figure out where the bug is and then take it from there.
Yes. Also, I wouldn't really say it's a bug. It's kind of like a design decision of that line to do it this way.
Yeah.
And we can say that we think that the design decision is wrong, but I think it doesn't need to be specified by us what they do with the client in this case.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, anything else for the call today? Then thank you all for coming and have a nice week.
Thanks.